Okay, so today we're going to go over why, if you handle rejection correctly, you will actually get less rejected in the future. Okay? So the first way is more to do with girls' perceptions or other people's perceptions of your rejection. And this comes into play in social circle environments, but also night game environments like clubs and bars, which I kind of consider social circle light, because a lot of the times when you're going to meet girls, most guys are going out with friends. So you're involving people that you know, and usually girls are out with friends. So you're going to have to be able to handle, social situations with more than one person, X equals whatever. And you have to have a lot of skills and abilities to, how do I have a conversation with a group? How do I da-da-da-da? So it's a very social circle heavy environment. But then especially if you're out with people who, how you act and what you say is going to dictate how people speak about you later on. And then that's going to kind of culminate into what your reputation is. It's very important that you handle rejection properly, right? So let's just say like night game, like let's say you're out alone. You approach a girl and you get rejected and you get annoyed, frustrated, sad, or even angry or creepy. And they have, levels of, angry is probably the worst reaction you could have, right? I guess I probably the best would be just slightly sad, because at least you're fucking just keeping it to yourself. And you're always going to get hurt by rejection a little bit. So let me get this out of the way. I'm not teaching you that you have to be a fucking Terminator, because that's impossible. The fact that you're going after these girls means you have some attachment to it. So it's going to cause, some pain if you get rejected. But we're going to have to learn how to transmute that into something that's useful, because right now rejection for you isn't being used as proper fuel, and also a proper resource of review that you can actually go over and learn from, because that's precisely what it should be doing to you. It should be showing you, okay, I'm doing X or Y wrong, right? So if you go and approach a girl and you have a bad reaction, a couple things can happen. So a girl watching you get rejected is going to form an opinion based on how you handle it. If you handle it well, she's going to think, oh, okay. I mean, you kind of lose points for getting rejected. But if she's already interested in you, it might dip a little bit because you got rejected. But the fact that you handled it well gives you a lot of pluses. If it happens a lot, then it's a net loss. Like if a girl just sees you constantly getting rejected, it's going to be a net loss. But that it kind of gets complicated. It depends on what her value is. Like if she sees you as like extraordinarily hot for whatever reason, and she sees you get rejected a little bit, I mean, I guess it kind of lowers you, but that could even help. She might even think like, oh, maybe he actually is in my league, but I think he's so hot. And if she's, relatively the same or higher value than you, just, arbitrarily speaking, using random words like value. I mean, some girls are just fucking hotter than others. But it is quite subjective. I've spent a lot of time going over different guys' tastes, and I am constantly surprised by what guys find attractive versus me. There's definitely like wide ranges. But she is going to generally not like you getting rejected, but the fact that you handle it well might be an overall plus, unless it goes, if you're just talking to every girl, except for that situation I told you. So you're going to have a better chance with that girl if you handle the rejection properly. But if you don't handle it well, then any chance you had to break even with like girls' perceptions of you based on you approaching other girls, if they happen to be watching, and you don't know if they're watching or not, right? So you need to act as if the girl you like, besides the one you're talking to, some other hot girl is watching. Any chance you had to break even is gone, because now not only did you get rejected, you handled it bad. Fuck, like you're fucking useless. Like not only are you not attracted to that girl, you also, are fucking weird or aggressive or a loser. I mean, we could get into a whole conversation over men's entitlement. I actually had a first cut of this video where I kind of went on a tangent of men's entitlements of like, well, she shouldn't care. And, we have all these ideas about, girls should cut us a break. But what's funny is with a lot of clients and myself, I've noticed that while we have these views of other people, how they should like cut us breaks, we are like ruthless in how we see others, and it's pretty hypocritical how much we expect others to give us a break, but then how little breaks we give others. So we're just gonna like speak very brutally about this game of dating, because any empathy that you expect of others, you generally probably don't show it to others. I mean, you might think you do, but in a lot of cases, I have seen that the men who complain the most about girls treating them shitty treat women pretty shitty. It's a pretty common thing. It's a very common pattern. If someone's bitching about women or women bitching about men, they usually suck. They usually suck pretty fucking hard. But anyways, so it's just bad for girls' perceptions of you. And then if you're in a social circle, like, if someone you're going to spend more time with sees it, they're going to like say, hey, I saw, Jack going to talk to this girl and he got rejected and, he got really upset and da-da-da-da-da. And some girl's going to be like, oh, yeah, and then it might combine with a different experience. Like, oh, yeah, I remember he tried to talk to my friend and he was kind of weird. And then they're going to be like, okay, well, my friend thinks he's weird. This guy, I saw that he was weird, fucking Transformers Voltron, these two experiences morph, and then now you have a reputation of being, a loser or creepy or whatever. That's how reputation works. It's just a bunch of people's experiences with you on what you do or say, so your words and your behavior combined with other people's testimonies, and then they kind of blah, 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 just come together depending on a lot of different factors, and then that's your reputation, right? Each person combines their reputation, and then they come away with a newly formed reputation of you. So you want to try and put as many pluses in your corner as you can. So it's very important for those environments. But then even cold approach, where no one's really watching, it's gonna fuck with your momentum, which I did point out in a different video shouldn't matter too much. But I did say it does matter. Your momentum, your emotional state, how you're feeling about yourself. If not only that day, but in general, like if you're having a shitty life, a lot of stuff's coming your way. You should try to make it affect your game as less as possible, but it's impossible to completely, you're a human being. You're going to be affected by external circumstances. But if you have good game, it affects you less because you just know how to present yourself. Not in like a fake way, but like in a way where, you have discipline, but also you acknowledge like, hey, this person doesn't deserve to be, for me to trauma dump on them or kind of give them bad vibes. Like, I still have a lot of value to give, and I can kind of just put this to the side, and it's a personal business, and then, show my other side, and then get to know them, and et cetera, et cetera. I saw some podcast, some guy kind of put it as like, dating is showing the best side of yourself, and then the other person slowly becoming disappointed. I think that's a very negative way of putting it. It has some truth to it. But I think it's a very negative way of putting it, and it's not completely true either. It comes from an expectation point of view rather than a possibility point of view. So it's a pessimist versus an optimist, and I'm generally a very brutal optimist. I think we should definitely integrate a lot of brutal truths, but if we're not being optimistic about dating, then what the fuck are we doing? You should probably just give up. It's a total waste of time if you're not optimistic about dating. But if you do not handle rejection correctly, whatever that means, you get upset, you get sad, you start thinking about how you're lonely, whatever happens to you when you get rejected, you start calling girls bitches, or, I've seen everything from guys. And for myself, I mean, I've been guilty of every sort of response to being rejected, being angry, oh, women, blah, 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 being annoyed, thinking, oh, well, why is she rejecting me? I'm awesome. Or being sad and getting depressed, whatever, right? And it's going to affect that momentum in your next approach. And you want it to have the least effect possible, because it really just doesn't help you. I mean, it just really has a net negative. Like, you have to think short-term memory, next play, next play, next play, next play, right? You fumbled, you did whatever, but you got it back. Okay. Next play, next play. Just keep doing the next play, the next approach. But what's most important about keeping that momentum is actually learning from the rejection. And that's the most important part of this video, right? It's having the right mentality of how to learn from a rejection, and then that has the most drastic effect on not getting rejected in the future. Because the other ones, like just, having composure, it's going to increase your chances with girls who are watching you get rejected. Or, if you have good momentum, it is going to help you have the right emotions for the next approach. But the most impactful change in your next approach is if you learned from the rejection. What was I doing wrong, right? Was I, was it the beginning of the conversation? I came in way too energetic and showing too much interest, and it just came out of left field, and she's like, who's this person? Why are they coming at me with this high energy? You're too aggressive. You're not showing enough emotion. You're way too unimposing. And then, you don't even kind of blip on their radar. They just, you kind of go, hey, excuse me. And, you're very soft in your voice or something. And she kind of goes like, and then just keeps going, right? Because you didn't have enough, I guess, base attractiveness for her to give you any attention. So the more attractive you are inherently to her, based on her type and your general attractiveness, the less you do have to work, at least in the beginning. Everyone has to work later on, because attraction only lasts you so long if you don't maintain it and cultivate it. But if you're not starting off of any strong personal attraction that she has towards, whatever that you have, you do need to present yourself much better. And so if you're not constantly tweaking and thinking, okay, what can I change? Then you're just going to continue to get the same results you're getting right now. I mean, you might passively be learning and improving, but it happens a lot slower than you would think. Right? It's like playing a game, just playing hundreds of hours and thousands of hours. It gives you data points. But if you're not saying, should I have done this move here? Should I have reacted this way? I should read patterns about these kind of players and start developing your own sort of internal theory. You're not really gonna learn, and then you're gonna find yourself 10,000 hours into playing this game, and you're like, have I really even improved at all? And if so, how much? So, if you develop the right mentality about rejection, which is a review mentality, you're going to be in a much better place, because that's the only way to truly improve. And I know it's a very trite aphorism that, you have to fail forward or fail upwards, or, whatever fucking fortune cookie thing that you can come up with on, not giving up. It's the fucking truth. It just is. Some things that are said over and over and are common sense are just fucking true. But for some reason, these common truths are just too hard, because in practice they involve, probably the biggest complaint and the biggest problem I see with every client or potential client is nobody wants to do anything. Nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to risk anything. Right? Jesus Christ. It's like one of the biggest problems. I'll have people sign up for consultations for coaching. And I've had the best year I've ever had in my life with coaching, right? But I still get a lot of no's, obviously. And the majority of those no's, outside of the ones they're like, oh, I just can't afford you. The ones who are like, okay, yeah, I think I can afford it. I just got to think about it. Bro, it's just like girls. I'm not a high pressure salesman, because I'm not trying to fuck you, right? So if a guy's like, oh, I got to think about it, I'll just be like, whatever, dude. I'll try to give him one little push, because I know that the chances of him saying yes are like 30%. It's like a 70-30 on when a guy says, I got to, or an 80-20 maybe. It's just really sad to see, because I know they can afford it, because the way they responded, or they just straight up said, yeah, I can afford it. I just got to, and then they go back and then they have time to think about it. It's days or weeks. And then they come back to me. They're like, oh, maybe now's not the right time. And I'm like, when is the right time, motherfucker? Like, you reached out to me. Like, I don't really do cold outreach, right? They're the ones who are like seeking me out. Like, hey, I really want coaching. And I'm like, all right, well, here's how it's going to go. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I can show you testimonies. I can show you, whatever. And they've been watching me for years. And so they have this trust. But then it's like, they just fail to pull the trigger. And it's just infuriating because, let's take a step back from just my own self-interest. Like, dude, you're not going to improve if you don't have a review mindset. It's just not going to fucking happen. I don't know anyone who you can get good without coaching. I'm not saying that you 100% need coaching. But by God, if you're not already improving, you're not going to be improving, right? Coaching is going to do this. It's going to go whoosh, right? If you're a super beginner, it might take time to get that start. But once you go, you're going to go wham. And then you'll have like a bunch of little, you'll have a bunch of dips in between, right? And you'll be like, oh, I'm doing shit. Oh, I'm doing amazing, right? But if you're doing this naturally, well, okay, you're going to continue that course. You're going to improve. You'd have to be fucking retarded not to improve a little bit, right? But you're going to improve like this, right? But when you have someone pointing out your mistakes, then it's just a question of iteration, so doing it a lot, and fucking listening, because I have some clients who just don't fucking listen. But at least they're trying. At least they are trying to listen, right? But then you have the guys who they're like, yeah, I want to do coaching. It's like, when are you going to do it? When? Right? The same thing with rejection. Right? Let's leave coaching aside. Like, you just keep getting rejected. It's like, when are you going to fucking learn your lesson? Have you ever thought to sit there and go, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Like, just sit there and really just basically say, okay. And go through the normal shit. Is it my looks? Is it my height? Is it my this? Is it my that? And then say, okay, is it possible that it's something I'm not seeing that is what I'm doing? Some things can be externally explained, right? Like, I think some people underestimate how many approaches they have to do. Dude, something like 60% or 70% of all women are in relationships, right? So just right there, boom. Right? And anyone out there who's like, oh, this is how you respond to have a girl or a boyfriend. Yeah, good luck. Enjoy that fucking karma. Like, don't go after girls with boyfriends. Fucking trust me as a guy who's done it too many times. Right? And I wonder what my fucking karma is going to be for that shit. But don't fucking do it, okay? Oh my God. I don't care if she's 100 out of 10. It's not worth it. You only have like 20 to 30% of attractive women. And the more attractive a woman is, generally she's going to have more suitors. There is a phenomenon of like really beautiful women, guys are generally afraid to approach them directly and blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, these girls are going to have options. So you're only going to have a certain window where they're even single, right? But what else are you going to do? What alternative is there? Right? Give up? God, there's always a guy who comments that, he wants to give up or blah, blah, blah. I'm looking forward to that and then deleting it because it's a waste of my fucking time to even look at it. But, when are you going to sit there and go, okay, what am I that rejection? Okay, I went up and I said this and then she actually liked me. Okay, we started talking. So if she likes you and starts talking to you, generally you were okay, right? So then if you lost her, it was something after that, right? Basic troubleshooting, problem solving. I mean, think about like IT software. Have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in? It sounds dumb, but there's a reason why they teach that as the first step. Then the second thing, well, have you checked this? Have you checked that? Then occasionally, yeah, it's a very niche thing, right? But a lot of times it's right in your fucking face. And that's what I do as a coach. I'm like, dude, it's right in your fucking face, but you can't see it. There's a lot of things that are very like complicated and nuanced, right? And that's where having a coach really helps. But even when it comes to super simple shit, like, dude, you're fucking awkward. Like, you're just weird in general. Like, I can get on a call with you and within 5 minutes, I'm gonna be like, yeah, you're a fucking goofball. Like, no wonder girls don't fucking like talking to you, right? You're either way too fucking energetic or you're fucking boring. Like, you got nothing to you. Like, where's your fucking personality? Yeah, okay. What? Who am I fucking talking to? Fucking robot? Right? So there's so many things that are in our face, but you can't fucking see it, right? That's why you do something like coaching. Like, clearly I'm too fucking lazy or stupid to figure this out on my own, which it might sound really harsh, but I'm that way with a lot of other things in my life that I pay coaches for. Like figuring out copywriting. Like I'm fucking garbage at it, right? So I try to learn from people. Or, YouTube. Clearly I'm fucking garbage at it, right? Or I'd be a lot more successful. Well, I guess I'm not garbage, but I'd be a lot more successful than I am right now. So I try to learn, right? Or, video games. I've probably spent the most on coaching for fucking video games, right? And learning, like, what am I doing wrong? And then a coach comes in, he's like, dude, here's a super basic fucking thing that you're not doing. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I do it and fucking results change immediately. But, the biggest thing that I have to harp on in every goddamn video, because I just see it, is just dudes don't want to do the work, or they're willing to do the work, but they can't see what they need to work on. I'd rather you at least do the work. But so many guys get on that consultation call. Okay, I'll think about it. And then gone to the wind. You're not going to improve. You're not going to improve. The chances are so low. I know because I've fucking been watching for years. And the amount of, usually the only guys who are doing really well are the guys who were already doing pretty good before they found me. And then, they have the right mentality to keep. But even then, they kind of just like stagnate. Right? And they never reach the highest level. Right? So whether you're a beginner or advanced, like, do you want to reach the highest level or do you want to be whatever you are right now? So anyways, this kind of rolled into a different lesson, but that's what most videos roll into. It's your inability to look at what you're doing wrong and then know why it's going wrong. That's all improvement means, right? So the right rejection mentality is don't get too upset because other people are going to see it. Try not to let it fuck with your momentum. But most importantly, what was it about that rejection? Was it on the date? Well, then clearly my approach in texting was good enough to get her out on a date. So that might be, I could improve in those areas, but in this particular instance, that wasn't the problem. Right? You have to take lessons from that experience and apply it in that context. Right? You're not going to learn too much about approaching from that because you did okay. But you can learn about the date because you fucked up on the date. You didn't see an approach invitation. Right? I just had a client who all I had to do was look at her text after the date and I could tell she liked him. That's it. And then, we spent an hour and a half talking about other stuff that he also needed to improve upon. But I'm like, dude, I can already tell you she likes you. So you did something wrong on the date that involved you not pushing enough. Because did you know she liked you? And he's like, no, not really. I'm like, I could tell just immediately from that. Just because I've seen that pattern 1,000 times. So, we'll go over the date and I'm sure I'll be fucking right. So unless you fuck her, you fucked up. Every time. Even if it's an external circumstance where, like, she had a boyfriend and you couldn't do anything about it, or she's just not attracted to you, there's going to be a certain percentage of women that just, like, 9 out of 10 times just not going to be attracted to you. You could still learn something from it. Because there was still you, walking up to a person and executing plan A, or step 1, where you're like, hey, excuse me, blah, blah, blah. Right? So if you want to, like, fucking skyrocket your results and learn how to have this mentality and me actually, like, be there with you, brainstorming, like, this is what you did wrong, I highly suggest you sign up for coaching, right? And don't be, like, fucking 80% of people who talk to me and, oh, yeah, I'll think about it, and then, good luck. Be serious. Invest. Fucking take the risk. Go for it. You're gonna have to fucking jump at some point, or you're never gonna improve. It's just not gonna happen. Or, if that's not in your budget, or if you're not interested in it, then, get one of my courses. Get Meet Girls Everywhere. Teaches you how to approach girls during the day, which also includes my texting book, or you can buy my texting book just on its own. It's in the description below. And learn how to text girls, because you fucking suck at texting. I haven't met a single guy who I think is, like, genuinely good at texting. Like, as a client who was like, oh, yeah, you're a good texter. I've seen some that are okay, but then they make some very obvious mistakes. So check out one of those things, and good luck. But if you're not handling rejection right, it's going to lead you to a lot more rejection. But if you do handle it correctly, it'll lead to less rejection. So, love you guys. Go fuck yourself. Hector Castillo. You know the YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, blah, blah, blah. All right, bye.